Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my mid-year quarter two sort of check-in. I did a quarter one check-in just to see sort of how I was doing on my general reading goals, and so just continuing on with that, doing a halfway point check-in. I feel like this one feels less successful than the first one did, and I will get to that soon, but I basically am still achieving my reading goals overall. So one of the things that I've basically implemented is that I have very loose reading goals. I'm not being super strict, really. And honestly, for the most part, as long as I'm hitting some real basic things like reading enough people of color, reading enough nonfiction, things like that, I'm kind of okay with just doing almost whatever I want, which I think is a great way to read. But I do have like four sort of goals that I am trying to accomplish this year, although in quarter two I spent less time focusing on them. So the first one and the main one that is like a slightly more strict reading goal is the doing the Read Harder challenge. So if you aren't aware, the Read Harder challenge is from Book Riot, and they basically put out 24 tasks that you should try to read books that fit into those tasks. At the end of the first quarter, I talked about how I'm always super motivated to do the Read Harder challenge at the beginning of the year, and so I try to like knock out as many of those books in the first quarter as I can because I lose steam basically after that point. And my goal for the second quarter was to try to finish the Read Harder challenge completely. And while I have made progress on it, I definitely have not completed it. I currently have 3 more tasks that I need to complete for the Read Harder challenge, which is not that bad considering that we're only halfway through the year, but they are basically like the 3 tasks that I enjoy the least, or I'm having the hardest time finding books that I think I'm going to enjoy for those tasks. So the first one is to read either colonial or post-colonial literature, and I feel like I've picked up like 3 different books for this task, and I could not get through any of them. So if you have recommendations for that task, definitely leave a comment down below. I think the next one I'm going to try is A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. That one I think is also a novella, so fingers crossed that I can do that. The other one is to read an essay anthology, and I'm just having a hard time finding one that, again, I want to read all the way through. I got the book Scratch, which is about like writers and writers talking about money. I read through like 3 of the essays and I liked one of them, and it felt like it was just getting like super repetitive. Are so hard for me because they're so all over the place. I'm trying to find some other books, so if you have a good essay anthology that you can recommend to me, leave it down below. And the final task is to read an assigned book that you hated, and this is the task that I have been avoiding. So eventually I will read The Scarlet Letter, I suppose, this year, or I could just not. Honestly, I'm okay with not, but I do want to try. So yeah, eventually that'll get done. So I'm hoping that maybe in the third quarter I will knock these out. Finishing with 3 left over feels like a waste since I'm so close and I still have so much of the year left. So yeah, let's see if this happens. So the second goal that I had was to read 1 Pulitzer Prize winning nonfiction book every month. And I was doing such a good job of this, except once I got to the autism book that I mentioned in the last quarter one check-in video, after that one, I basically stopped. I couldn't get through the autism book. I think I was just getting like really overwhelmed with the size of it, and it started to feel really repetitive again, which is a thing that happens with nonfiction. But I did read the John Adams biography, which technically won the Pulitzer Prize, so I'm going to count that one as a win. But yeah, that is definitely one that I want to pick back up again. It's one that basically fell by the wayside for a number of months because I was prioritizing other books, and I do want to keep going with that as much as I can. I might maybe like stick to the winners as opposed to the nominees as well, unless there's one nominee that really jumps out at me. I think the nominees in general are weaker, which is why they're nominees and not winners. So I might maybe just work through the winners list and see how I feel after that, but we'll see what happens. My third goal for this year is to read bigger/denser books and to incorporate that more into my reading. And surprisingly, I have been doing that. I'm reading more. Like, I've read more books than I have in the past, but I'm also reading bigger and denser books too, which is kind of insane to me. But yeah, that's just a thing that like I enjoy doing in general. If you saw my summer TBR video, you would have seen that I really enjoy picking up big books over the summer for whatever reason. So in June, I read the John Adams biography, which is great. July, I'm supposed to be reading Barkskins. I have not started it yet, but there's still time in July to get that one crossed off, and I do want to read it. But also the Eowyn Ivy book that I read last month feels more like a denser read to me, or a slower read. So I feel like that's in the spirit of the reading challenge or goal, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I feel like that's one that I'm not having a hard time with. Like I'm naturally being drawn to those books, although I am very much reading like short books all the time. So yeah, I think I'm doing fine with that one. And the final goal that I have for this year is to read The Three Musketeers, which, as you guys are probably aware, I will be doing in the month of August. I will have a link to my video where I talk about the read along I'm going to be hosting for that. So yes, that will definitely get accomplished in August, and I'm very excited for that. And that also fulfills the like big book thing as well. So yeah, overall, I mean, technically I'm doing fine with my reading. I'm almost done with the Read Harder challenge. I think the fact that I've dropped the Pulitzer Prize one quite a bit in the second quarter was a little bit disappointing when I looked back on it. I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that challenge. But that's why we do these check-ins, so that way we can sort of adjust or course correct or whatever it is you want to call it. So yeah, I think that with the third quarter, as I'm sort of like projecting out what's going to happen, like I'm clearly working on my big books thing, and I think that after I read The Three Musketeers in August, I will probably pick up Pulitzer Prize books again, unless maybe I'll look up some of them and see if any of them are on the shorter side, because I don't like to read too many big books at one time. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with the way my reading's been going. I've been very much doing the mood reading thing, just picking up whatever catches my fancy, DNFing books consistently. One thing that I've been doing, which I don't know if I've talked about in a video yet or not, is that I basically stopped putting up what I'm currently reading on Goodreads, which I find to be so freeing for whatever reason. I think it's because it allows me to pick stuff up and put stuff down as much and as often as I like, and all I need to do is record my final thoughts on it. For me personally, like one of the reasons why I very rarely do read-alongs, and one of the reasons why I very rarely do like buddy reads or anything like that, is because for me, I don't like recording my thoughts while I'm in the process of experiencing a book. I like to basically take the whole book in, or as much as I can in, before forming thoughts on it. And obviously, like, if I'm not enjoying a book, I just DNF it and things like that. And I also enjoy the fact that I don't have to like explain my DNFs or anything like that, because a lot of times my DNFs just are because I'm not in the mood for a thing and not necessarily like a judgment on the books themselves. So yeah, I think the fact that I have been reading almost solely for myself has been so nice, and I highly recommend it. You know, I've never really been a person to do TBRs except for like during readathons or something like that, and I don't really make hard and strict rules for myself outside of like making sure I'm reading enough people of color, like I said earlier. And obviously, like I'm incorporating more mysteries and thrillers and things like that because I'm doing Read or Dead podcast, which as always is linked below. And so I'm reading mysteries and thrillers for the podcast. And so I think that most of the books that I've felt less okay with are ones that I've had to read for the podcast, but the majority of the time too, we keep those broad enough that I can usually find a book that works for me. So yeah, I mean, in general, I'm very happy with the way my reading has been going so far. I feel like I know what I like, and I've been trying new things. I've been picking up stuff from small presses. The one thing that I've been doing a poor job of is keeping up with my reading spreadsheet. I'm logging everything on Goodreads, but I just opened up my spreadsheet to sort of check on various other stats, and I realized I haven't updated it since February. And yeah, I've read a lot of books since then, so I didn't have time to update it, so I don't have like numbers in terms of like percentage of genre and whatever else. So yeah, I know, or at least I shouldn't say I know, but I plan on updating that spreadsheet at least by the end of the year, because I know that future rincey will want that data. And obviously, like, I'm logging all of my reading on Goodreads, so it's not like I'm going to forget the books that I read or forget what year they were published or whatever it is, because again, it's all on Goodreads. But I know at some point I'm going to want those like specific breakdowns of data. But there's something just really, really nice these days about being more fast and loose almost with my reading, to just pick up whatever I like, put down whatever I'm not liking, and all I'm doing really on Goodreads these days is putting a basic star rating for my own personal reference, and just to make it easier for me at the end of the year when I'm doing my favorite books of the year list. And I'm barely writing any reviews on Goodreads. Like sometimes I'll have a comment or two, but not that often. And then I just talk about it in my wrap-ups, because that's sort of my preferred way of processing the books that I've been reading this year. I think that's very much just a sign of like where I'm at right now in life. I don't want to spend all of my time typing up these like formal reviews on Goodreads, and I don't want to, I don't know, spend a lot of time putting in all the data in the spreadsheet. Like if I could hire someone to input information into the spreadsheet for me, that would be aces. But that's not going to happen because I can't afford that. Or maybe I could. I don't know how much that would cost. But anyways, this is a complete tangent. So, yes, happy with my reading, not happy with my lack of personal accountability, I guess, or the fact that I'm not like keeping super detailed data on my reading right now because I know I'm going to want to do that eventually, but I'm also kind of okay with it because I'm doing what makes me happy. And really, that's, I feel like, the most important thing I could be doing these days. Oh man, that was a weird note to end on. I'm really tired. It's so hot outside. So, yeah. That's all I have for my quarter two check in. I feel like my quarter two check ins are so much less, I don't want to say structured, but has so much less information. But I think that's also partially because I don't make as many goals for myself and I don't, yeah, have that many things I care about right now outside of those like three or four things. So, yeah, that's everything that I have. Feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know how your reading is going so far this year. Or if you have any questions about my reading habits or anything like that that I didn't touch upon, you can always leave that down below as well. So, yeah, that's all I have for now. And thanks for watching.